by film.
5,
Stand by music.
4,
Stand by announce.
3, 2, 1.
And fade up.
All aboard!
And a name on the front is a hell of a lot more important than the one on the back.
Don't act like you're not impressed.
On page 394.
How much you want to make a bet I can throw a football over the mouth?
That is so fetch.
Dodge, duck, dip, dive, and dodge.
The power of the sun in the palm of my hand.
Where's my super suit?
Hey, Fat Lard, come get some dinner.
I am not drinking any f***ing Merlot.
And I'm gonna try to forget the fact that you're a girl. But dogs can look up.
Oh, durga.
You tell me what I saw this woman! This is the Polar Express!
Well, welcome, everyone, to a brand new episode of 20 Years, 4 Beers. We are a podcast dedicated to rewatching movies from at least 2 decades ago, while simultaneously enjoying a minimum of 4 modern beers. My name is Steve, and this is my big brother,
Tim.
And thanks for listening. Don't know what I was going to say. We are coming to you from Minneapolis, Minnesota. No idea where that was from.
Thanks.
I was looking lower down my sheet because I'm now realizing that I didn't write down my drinking buddies. So here in a minute, I'm going to have to write them down.
I'll go first.
No, that's fine. Yeah, exactly. So there we go. All right. We have just watched and recorded our episode on Collateral. And as usual, we sit down and discuss another film over another beer. So we refer to these as our happy hour episodes.
Hey, you guys. Happy hour is from 4 to 6.
On this happy hour, we will be covering a very similar film in Collateral.
Same vein, right? Yep.
Same, right.
Right up the same.
And we'll actually be talking about a hit comedy from 2004 that kind of came out of nowhere at the time. And we will be covering Dodgeball, a true underdog story. Dodgeball is far from a thinker film and centers around a group of down-on-their-luck gym rats and the gym's owner who are facing the takeover of their beloved Average Joe's gym by the evil Globo Gym. In a last-ditch effort, the group decides to enter a dodgeball competition only to find out that Globo Gym has done the same. Will our group of Davids overcome their Goliath, or will their dreams come crashing down like a St. Patty's Day bar sign of death? I think you all know which way this will go.
Oh, that's so good.
The film is written and directed by Rawson Marshall Thurber and stars Ben Stiller, Vince Vaughn, Christine Taylor, and features Rip Thorne, Justin Long, Stephen Root, Alan Tudyk, Gary Cole, Jason Bateman, and Hank Azaria.
You're going to learn to be true dodgeballers. Then you've got to learn the 5 Ds of dodgeball. Dodge, duck, dip, dive, and dodge. If you master the 5 Ds, no amount of balls on earth can hit you. Quebec, go ahead.
Me or... Yeah, shouldn't we, learn by dodging balls that are thrown at us, or...
That's what this sack of wrenches is for. If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball.
What?
Come on, not my beer.
With our reactions and verdicts to the movie out of the way, we move on to the reactions to our beers that we drank while rewatching our subject movie.
And if you want to have sex with a disgusting bad brewer with a terrible attitude,
This is where we take a look back at our beers and give our expert ratings for our drinking buddies.
ugh, whatever. Hey, here's the truth.
This is Drinking Buddies.
Let's get weird.
So, in preparing for watching this film, I said, do I want to have a theme beer or no? And I said, nah, I'm going to do my average Joe stuff. No, I just was like, I don't care. It was more like what I have in my fridge, as well as serendipitously found a new one from a local option that hadn't had before. Founders Brewing out of Michigan. They're all day. Kind of like, pump your brakes there, man. they've started to release like variations of it. And I know you can't have it or it's problematic because of medication, but they released an all-day grapefruit, which for some time was all the rage. Like sculpin, grapefruit, like to their credit, this one was very, very good. I give it a 4. And it had a great smell. It wasn't like a overwhelming, like, ooh, synthetic or whatever. It was like a nice, like just amplified a bit of that, like kind of grapefruit already in an IPA. Very, very enjoyable.
Yeah.
Highly recommend. It was like a 6-pack. Enjoyed it. Very good. I mean, not in one setting. I had one.
Of course.
Movie, but yeah.
Sure.
And then
Mom's listening.
Yeah. Not in one sitting. Then I had Town Hall Brewing.
Yep.
We went out for dinner the other night and got a crowler. It was great. Brought their kind of flagship Masala Mama IPA.
Wow.
Right?
Okay. All right.
Yeah. I was like, I need to bring this home because I wanted to watch it. It's a 4. It's such a great, like, local, old school type of, like, bitter, kind of classic IPA.
I'm surprised we haven't talked about it.
No, I don't think we've had any town halls, but anyway, it maybe one.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I'll let it take a look. But yeah, that was my options for the evening I watched it. What'd you have?
Cool. Well, I had 2 from Unmapped Brewing Company. I really did. I don't know why I didn't. The problem was, like, so I watched this movie in March.
Yeah, behind the scenes. We had prepped for this a while ago.
Yeah, and it's like, and my son Matt and I had been like watching old comedies, and and we had watched like '94 stuff, and so we'd been watching a lot of these old comedies, and it was like, okay, so we watched Dodgeball, and he enjoyed a lot of the physical comedy of it, but then got bored otherwise. But
Sure.
And so like I had to like remember back what I had, and I remember getting 2 from Unmapped at the time. So the Unmapped Brewing Company out of Minnetonka, Minnesota, their Saison Amelie, I don't think we had which would have been great, obviously, from Amelie back in the day, but they didn't brew it at the time.
Yep.
It's their standard Saison. It's a 3.75 to 4, depending on if I'm in the right mood for it. That night, it was probably a 3.75 because I wasn't quite in the mood for it.
Sure.
But then I like Unmapped a lot. I think they do some really good stuff. And so I ended up buying 2 from them that night. And the other one, they did this. I don't remember the name of it all of a sudden because I didn't write it down, obviously. It was a lager that was brewed and aged in tequila barrels.
Really?
And so it was a tequila lager. There was no lime. It was literally just a standard lager in tequila barrels. So you would drink it and it would have that like tequila, because tequila I think is really delicious on its own.
Sure.
And it would have that tequila flavor to it, but then in a lager, it was outstanding.
Really?
Yeah. And I asked about it, like, since it's been a few months, I asked about it like last month, and they're like, yeah, we're going to try and do it again or whatever, but they didn't like guarantee anything. But it was a really interesting take on these tequila barrel aged things or whatever, because LTD just had their anniversary party, and they have tequila. But they didn't barrel age it or they didn't age it in barrels. They did it with spirals. Like they do this like tequila spirals
like
or whatever
stuff. Yeah.
And it's still really good. And you'll have some tomorrow if you come over.
Ooh.
But different, like just different. You don't quite get that sort of barrel. And that's what it was. It was this tequila barrel aged lager. It was really good.
Ooh.
Yeah. I want to do it again. So there you go.
And then tonight we're sharing Stone Brewing out of San Diego. Their Tangerine Express Hazy IPA. Yeah. Hazy IPA with tangerine and pineapple.
Yep.
It's a 3.75 for me. It's one of those that comes out typically in their like kind of mixed pack that I don't look forward to per se, but I don't get disappointed by.
Yeah.
It's just my only
issue is I don't really ever taste any tangerine to it.
Yeah.
Like I've had it at their tap rooms out in California, like when I've gone out there. And I will say, like, out of the tap, you get a little more of the tangerine.
Yeah.
But in the can, it's kind of like, it's fine. Yeah, I'd probably go 3.75. Yeah. Like, it's fine.
It works.
I just would seek out other stones. But it was in their mix pack that I assume you bought. So here we are.
I was like, yeah, I gotta get rid of it.
There we go.
Yep.
If you guys were the inventors of Facebook, you'd have invented Facebook.
This is a social network.
You don't have to be an intellectual property expert to understand the difference between right and wrong.
where we take a look back at the critical and fan reception from 2 decades ago.
Mark!
As usual, Tim takes point on this, so take it away, Tim.
You better lawyer up, asshole, because I'm not coming back for 30%. I'm coming back for everything. $1 billion.
The IMDb rating is 6.7 out of 10. Peter Howell of the Toronto Star said, eventually Dodgeball falls prey to its own stupidity, including far too many homophobic jokes, and to a surprisingly lackluster performance by Vince Vaughn. Peter Travers of Rolling Stone said, this masterpiece of modern cinema depends upon a single truism. A guy getting hit in the nuts 100 times in a row is funny 100 times. Right?
God bless you, Peter Travers.
Masterpiece of modern cinema.
Place. Okay.
Then Roger Ebert gave it 3 out of 4.
Yeah, I can see that.
Said, Stiller's manic performance is consistently funny.
Dude.
Vaughn plays it more or less straight, which is a wise choice since someone has to keep the plot on track.
Yep.
And Rip Torn's training methods get enormous laughs. It was a hard one to review, and like most of them are like, yeah, you know what you're getting into.
Yeah.
And Academy Awards, spoiler,
hey,
and no shock, no nominations.
We begin our discussion with our reaction segment that we call Spotlight.
This is Boston, and the church does not want them to be found, so they are not there.
This is where we highlight and discuss our top takeaways of any kind from rewatching our subject film.
We've got 2 stories here. We've got a story about degenerate clergy, and we've got a story about a bunch of lawyers turning child abuse into a cottage industry.
If there were 90 of these bastards, people would know.
Maybe they do.
This is Spotlight.
They knew, and they let it happen!
Man, before we even get into this, I just gotta say, you remember seeing this in theater, right?
Yep.
We saw it at Willow Creek Theater.
Yep.
We were living at, I think, your Zach's place,
Yeah,
right?
Zach's place, yep.
Yeah, because we'll talk about that with Napoleon Dynamite later this year, too. And what I remember of this movie is I feel like we were the only, 4 or 5 people laughing in the entire theater.
Yeah.
It was full. It was a hit. It was a legitimate hit.
Yeah.
And I feel like we were the only ones laughing,
Yeah,
or we were just laughing louder than everyone else.
I was like, how are no?
Yeah,
like,
I don't
no
remember.
One else?
But
yeah.
anyway, my first takeaway here, and I had to edit this a little because I already said it. I watched it earlier this year with my son, and it really did not feel like it held up at all. Yeah, I was like, yikes. He liked it enough, but overall felt like it felt kind of flat. So, fun fact then. So then last month we were going to do this for like a dual happy hour thing. And then we changed that up.
Scheduling got tight.
That week I watched Dodgeball again. And so I was like, I'm going to watch it again. Now here we are. So I back and watched it and by myself and definitely liked it more the second time around.
Sure.
I think that while being quotable still and with some great moments, it wasn't like consistently funny, but my first take coming back to this was just, it is so stupid, stupid funny. And that's what works with it.
Yes.
Like, they don't even pretend to have a great story.
No.
They find a way to like sort of wedge in enough story. Like we talked about Old School, which is probably our favorite comedy that we've covered, or close to it.
Yeah.
There's a real story behind Old School.
Yes.
Like that and so this is just like I don't know, let's just figure it out. And it works.
Yes.
So that's my first thought. It was just that sort of like, it's just stupid.
And I agree. My first note was like, this movie is so dumb. And yet at times so absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
And when I think of, the genre of just dumb comedy, we've talked about in this effort, like something like Zoolander, which did not hold up.
Nope.
And was far too like trying to be funny and cerebral and like, oh, it's going to be like, it just didn't hold up. And then, yes, with Old School last year, but that was a universal type of feeling where it's like, what would it be like to go back to college? And like, funny, but, and like being in your 30s or 40s and how dumb and stupid that. There's something so uniquely, but yet perfectly like universal with other sports themed underdog stories that this is so insanely stupid.
Yeah.
Like I remember watching the preview being like, oh, I know what I'm getting into.
Absolutely.
But you put Stiller and Vince Vaughn together and build a world around it and it completely delivers in all aspects for me. Like there's not like a point where I felt like I could actually really criticize it because
I mean, there's certainly a few things I can criticize now 20 years on. Yeah. I've got the good. I end up doing this as the good, the not so good, and the bad.
All right.
And I have some
curious.
things where I'm like, yeah, the bad.
Yeah.
But anyway, there are some things I can definitely come to be like.
Actually, I've got some quibbles. I will say I've got some quibbles.
Been kind to this.
True.
Similar to Zoolander. And I think that's why Old School is so good still.
Yes.
Is that like it didn't do some of the really there wasn't a hard R word throughout the thing. I feel like that was and then the gay bashing and something. I mean, there is so that reviewer is right.
Yeah, there's a bit too much of that.
Yeah, there is a lot of things where Old School, when you look back on it, you're like, oh, this holds up because it doesn't do those things. So I can find that. But aside from that, I agree with you. Like,
but it helped knowing like when I saw, or at least think of Old School, like it felt like there was it seems weird to even say, like a pedigree involved that felt like, okay, it elevated it.
Yeah.
I knew exactly, like this was like a Happy Gilmore 2.0 type of, this is so insanely stupid. And sure, we're along for the ride to see what happens.
Yep.
And it works.
All right. The good for me.
Yep.
Either one of the Patches characters are hilarious. Either one of them. You can pick. You can pick Hank Azaria or you can pick Rip Torn, and you're fine.
The
They're
1938
hilarious.
video.
Oh, yes.
The training sequence.
Yes. It's outstanding. Hank Azaria, perfect. Perfect.
Whoa. Hang on a second there, sport.
Patches O'Houlihan.
That's right, Timmy. Patches O'Houlihan, 7-time ADAA All-Star, is here to take you the rest of the way.
Jeepers. Really?
You betcha, champ. If you catch a ball that's thrown at you before it hits the ground, then the player who threw that ball is out, not you. Plus, another player from your team gets to come back into the game. It's a two-player swing.
Gee, thanks, Patches. I can't wait to start my own team at school.
Atta boy, Tiger. But remember, dodgeball is a sport of violence, exclusion, and degradation. So, when you're picking players in gym class, remember to pick the bigger, stronger kids for your team. That way, you can all gang up on the weaker ones, like Winston here. Nice one, son. You'll be an all-star yet. Just remember the 5 Ds of dodgeball. Dodge, duck, dip, dive, and dodge.
And even he hesitates with the second dodge in the most perfect way. And even he knows it's stupid. It's perfect.
Dip,
dodge. Again, Rip Torn is great. Is it Rip Torn?
Rip Torn, yes.
Rip Torn is great as Patches. That doesn't mean that Patches doesn't have his problems in terms of what he says out of his mouth and very offensive things, but he is perfect in that. I don't know if you want to elaborate on either of those two.
Well, I think, yes.
Because I have performances, but yeah. Yep.
I wrote down the how-to 1938 video is hilarious. Like explaining what dodgeball, like as if there needs to be some, like people know what it is.
Yeah.
It's like one of those, like, how do you not know what dodgeball is?
Yeah. It felt like The Simpsons in the mid-90s, right?
Yes.
Like the Simpsons would have had exactly that.
Like
video
a classic.
Or something to
Here's what the game means.
Yeah.
Like it's so insanely dumb, and yet it's so hilarious. And it's all predicated upon the fact of a kid getting hit in the face with a dodgeball.
With glasses.
Yes.
You gotta have the glasses.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's just like and it works every time. Again, Simpsons, when that, like what the art film where the guy gets hit in the nuts.
Oh,
Like,
yes. Yeah.
it's a genius.
Yeah, Mole Man.
Yes,
Yeah.
the physical
Yeah.
comedy totally works. And yes, Rip Torn to me actually, which I can't imagine that's his real name, but if not, whatever. Like,
Yeah.
all time, just considering his caliber of like stage actor
Yeah,
and like movie
yeah.
actor coming in and just completely delivering in every aspect. And I actually wonder how much was written.
I
or-
tend to think a
or
good amount
ad-libbed.
where it was actually written. I didn't look either, but I tend to think a lot of it was written because, man, if you've got that offensive stuff just
Yes.
hanging out for, I mean, oh man,
Like, man, we might have recast this because Rip, what are you
What
doing?
are you doing?
Yeah, but he's so good.
Yeah. Yep.
And I agree. Like having him some random here's our effort and like some old version of this is gonna come like it's again so stupid.
Yeah.
Wheels in. He's like on a wheelchair with like his
What up,
bomber
ladies?
jacket.
Yeah.
With his
With the
freaking
bagger
scarf.
yeah, the bagger wrenches.
Yeah, bagger wrenches. It's
Yeah.
so stupid.
Yes.
And yet it just delivers an average. Oh, okay. Yes. The two of them are great.
Yeah.
Great. Yep.
Yeah, the other good I have, well, aside from, I mean, it's classic physical comedy. I mean, just perfect nut shots, like just it's
Yes.
great physical comedy across the board. Everyone does a good job. Ben Stiller is perfect as White Goodman.
Yes.
In my opinion.
Yes.
And so we talk about Zoolander not holding up and it's a little bit weird or whatever,
Yeah.
but then this is the opposite to me. And I go,
True.
White Goodman, short of some of the fat shaming stuff that we'll talk about later,
Yeah.
but like, he is so perfect. Has that stupid mustache, like just creepy. I don't know. Like this might be my favorite Ben Stiller performance. But he is so just bought in. He is all in on the creepy with like the Nike Air Pump crotch and like just everything about White Goodman is just ugh, and yet it works so well. So
And I think
Ben Stiller as White Goodman is my next sort of like, okay, it works.
And I think what works about it is, and I can't stand the Meet the Fockers films.
No, the first one's fine to a certain
Or
extent.
Meet the
but
Parents.
otherwise
I can't stand it. Like,
yep.
I don't like the cringe. Let's put someone in a really uncomfortable situation and like have comedy. Like that doesn't
and
work for me.
everyone else was fine except for this one.
The one
person.
character. I
Yep.
can't stand that. Like in 3 movies of it, kill me now. I can't I hate
With
it.
one exception, Christmas Vacation is exactly that. Because all it is Clark being put in all these but not, I'm just saying, Clark's the catalyst for all the humor. He's not put in there and everyone else is, it's a separate thing.
I agree.
But I get where you're going.
But they're
from.
all
Yeah.
in their own variations, like terrible people. And so it's funny when the awkwardness
I get it. Yeah. Yeah.
builds and builds and builds.
I'm with you in the sense of,
but like
Meet
it's at the
the Parents I
expense.
didn't mind, but it just doesn't hold up. Because
It's at
you're
the-
like,
no.
What's the accuracy of this?
Yes.
Is just what's
it's at the
happening?
expense of this character. I don't find that to be enjoyable. But I agree. He fully commits to this.
Yep.
Like absurd character and the premise and the whole yes. And I don't know if the fat shaming is really difficult at times.
Mm-hmm.
But it is in many ways like because of him and then now this gym and what it means for him, it doesn't feel like it's unearned. If that makes sense.
Yeah,
Like it's not
no,
like
I'm
it's
not
like
saying
just
it's unearned.
punching down.
It's also unnecessary.
I agree.
There's none of it that is like that. There's none of it that is necessary to
Yes.
the story. I'm not saying it's unearned for his motivation.
Yeah.
His motivation is fine.
Yes.
The rest of the fat shaming is like, why is this needed to this?
Yeah.
Even to the point of the ending, short of one of the
I
greatest,
agree.
short of one of the greatest last lines of all time.
Yes.
We're talking about, but like it's like you need to have him in this giant fat suit for
Yeah.
like. I mean, so you just go. That's where you go. It's a little much.
But like I'll take this version over like Fat Bastard in the Austin Powers, right? I mean, at least like I think of like it's annoying, but like
Boy, that's a hard. Yeah,
it's a weird quibble and like comparison, which is like more appropriate.
He's supposed to be a fat bastard. Like that's his name.
Sure, but that's like over the top and like awful.
I
And
don't mind
feel like
fat
it's
bastard as a character. What I mind is some of the jokes around him. For
yes,
sure. I
and like
agree.
it's at the expense of these things,
Yep.
where this feels more earned for me. But not to defend it,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I
yep.
do feel like Ben Stiller, and I think you mentioned like in the good of
Yeah, I'm just
so
curious.
Justin Long,
Yep.
who's just unremarkable as an actor, but he's funny in some things.
Sure.
And I will say,
Die Hard. Yeah,
he is good in that.
he is good in that.
He's in one of the best romantic comedies with Drew Barrymore.
Yeah,
the distance.
You like that better than I do. Yeah, going
the distance. Yes,
yeah.
It totally works. And I can't. To the fact of I don't like Drew Barrymore,
No.
but it works for that.
No,
his physical comedy in this,
perfect.
The amount of times he is just pummeled with some flying object is so amazing.
Yeah.
And he's awkward, and he's just like,
he does a good job.
He comes out of nowhere. I don't know that I've ever seen him at the time prior to this, but it totally works.
Yeah, I had. Yeah,
for me, and he's
it was one of my favorite TV shows of all time. He was on, but you can't find it. Ed is a TV show.
Oh,
Ed,
sure, yeah,
he was on that.
Yeah,
yeah, but otherwise, yeah, he wasn't really around much.
But the physical comedy,
yeah, it is physical comedy across the board is really good.
It's so good, so good.
I mean, I don't know where I'm going to go with that necessarily. I'm going to end on a different thing.
Okay,
I have the not so good. So, Steve the Pirate is just weird for no reason.
There's no point.
Just no reason.
No.
There's none. And
Yeah.
like, it's a waste of Alan Tudyk's talent.
Right?
Like, I mean, you have this dude who is just so good in everything he does. And
Yes.
like, for why Steve the Pirate is useless. It's not bad. It's just like, okay, like, what are we doing?
Yeah, I had that. Steve the Pirate, no need.
Yeah. Now the payoff at the end with the treasure chest
Sure.
is what it feels like it was for.
Yes.
But otherwise it makes no sense. Vince Vaughn definitely mails it in.
He is
There
just
is literally nothing to him.
Nope.
And what's so frustrating about that is he's so good in any other movies. He's good in Swingers, he's good in Old School, he's good in Wedding Crashers after this. Like he just mails it in.
Starsky and Hutch.
Yes.
That's a bad guy. Like, or freaking Anchorman we'll talk about later this year.
He's
great.
He mails this in. There's nothing to it.
Yes.
And it really pisses me off. And I will say, while there are some stereotypes that are funny, there's also just a little too many stereotypes in this.
Yeah.
Whether it be Patches or whether it be, I mean, there's just like too many.
Yeah.
And that's like just a not so good, kind of in the middle. But really, the longer this movie went on, the more I could give two shits about Vince Vaughn in this movie. I was more frustrated. It's not bad, but I was like, it just didn't do anything for me.
It never felt
like, why does he get two bisexuals at the end? Why does Vince Vaughn in this movie earn two bisexuals?
Two women, yes.
Two beautiful bisexuals at the end.
Yes.
That's bullshit.
Yes.
So he's tall. Good for you.
It usually works. But anyway, I agree. I struggled with some of the rallying effort of the average Joes around this guy.
Yeah. For what?
Like, this is the guy, he is clearly incompetent from a business standpoint.
From everything.
And just very vanilla.
Yeah.
And he's not that invested in you.
No.
And so I agree. Like,
to the point where he literally
bails.
Abandons you.
Yes.
Like, later on.
Oh, I'm going to put, again,
you know.
the whole, like, final sequence, like, bidding on the...
it's fine.
Whatever.
That's forced to get there. I get it. But yeah.
But I agree. It was such a struggle in some ways, feeling like Vaughn's abilities in different roles can elevate the material.
Totally.
And it didn't necessarily detract, but it never felt like it made sense.
No.
For these people to be behind this guy. And it'd be one thing if he was the one that was finding out about Dodgeball as a thing, or like bringing it forward. Like,
yeah,
everybody else, and he's like, I guess we can do this.
No.
We'll see. Like, he's just there to try. He never really ever put an effort until the end.
Yeah.
And I was like, and side note, I'm talking about Lance Armstrong,
it
but it was like, think about, I agree. It just was like, meh, you're so underwhelming in what I know you can do.
To him. Yep.
No. So a few things that I loved in terms of like very little. Jason Bateman does so much with so little.
Yes, no, I'm being told that Average Joe's does not have enough players and will be forfeiting the championship match.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
I mean, I still use bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if
all
it
do.
pays off. Like, it's one of those like,
it's a quotable movie. There are still quotes that
yes,
yes, absolutely. Yep.
But he is so fantastic. Where I think he filmed for like a day, and just changed his outfit to do things, but ad lib most of it.
We hadn't,
right?
He was like gone. He was just nowhere to be found.
And like this was like pre Arrested Development
yeah.
coming into like being what it was.
Yep.
He's so phenomenal.
Yes.
As that dumbass, like, yeah, it's great. Again, ESPN Ocho.
I'm shocked. Which they do now. This is the importance of this movie. Is they do annually an ESPN 8 Ocho weekend at ESPN.
I mean, it's just so great.
At least they did. I don't know if they do anymore, but they did.
So obviously we know now the reality of what allowed Lance Armstrong to be what he did.
Sure.
But at the time,
you still got to go up, by the way, you still got to go up mountains and do the biking.
Sure. But it was like,
and we also
it was
know
prevalent.
there's a whole lot of other doping.
It was not
just him.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
But
I'm no apologist for Lance Armstrong.
I agree.
But yeah, okay.
But at the time, just think about it. I see it as I see it like a top 5 cameo relative to the quote unquote struggle of the main protagonist. Like when he just randomly shows up and talks about at the time like what he would have had to overcome to achieve it. But I'm sure this won't weigh upon you.
Brain, whatever, and testicular cancer, playing off of his own cancer.
Oh, how'd this work for you? Oh, yeah, I'm sure this won't be it's such
a haunt you till the end of your days, whatever he says.
It's such an amazing cameo. I'm just like,
I agree.
But by that point, it's such a delayed, like, okay, this is what's going to drive this boring character to do something. I was like, whatever. But yeah.
The cameos in this movie are what I was going to end on, but you just brought that up. Some of the best cameos in this movie. There really are. But like Lance Armstrong, it's hard to equate anyone now who would be as big of a get for that.
Oh, true.
In 2004. Like he had won those
like
Tour de France
then or whatever. Yeah.
Like it wasn't that he was like 10 years on or whatever.
Sure.
And so it is, I can't think of one. I can't think of anybody nowadays who would be anywhere close to getting that.
Yes.
And it worked for the story. It wasn't forced.
No.
It was really well, it's an earned, at the time, it was an earned, like, oh my God, Lance Armstrong's in this. Like that, it's a great moment. But aside from that, man, the cameo, come on. Like, you got Hasselhoff randomly.
Yes.
You have Shatner. It's not even a cameo. He's just Shatner,
William
I guess,
Shatner.
in there. And then you have, honestly, one of the best cameos in Chuck Norris.
Yes.
And you're just like, really? Like, this movie, Dodgeball of all movies, ends up with some of the best cameos. They're really good.
But because I think
you even got Booger from Revenge of the Nerds in there.
Yeah, but you think about it was like, it's weird to think about now, 20 years on.
Dodgeball tournament and grammar jamboree. Damn it.
Damn it. Like
20 years on, sorry.
There was all that Chuck Norris, like
still some of the best,
like pre-meme internet stuff that was out there of like what Chuck Norris accomplished.
Oh my God,
yeah,
those
right.
Books.
And it's like, so the zeitgeist of this guy.
This is a perfect like pre-Twitter humor.
Yes,
the Chuck Norris stuff.
It's incredible.
I can't even. It's indescribable how great that is.
My only minor quibble is when it was like Mr. something, Mrs. something, it should have said Mr. Norris.
No, it's just Chuck Norris.
No.
He's no Mr.
No, but I think it would have been like on brand for the next thing, but we would have known who it was.
Oh.
But like, why have
Chuck Norris?
But why have his name be the extra thing? Like, it's just like Mr. Mrs. Mr. Norris.
No.
Like, so
Chuck
good.
Norris.
Oh, I think it's
done.
Or not. No.
I have some bad. I don't know how many you got.
I got one more bad. The hotel room would not just open. So the whole thing with Christine's character coming to find Peter at the end. Hey, where you at? She comes in his hotel room and finds out he's checked out or whatever.
Oh,
like,
right, yeah.
Again, why am I getting hung up on like real world accuracy? But she just comes into his hotel room. It doesn't open like that. It's not how hotel rooms work, okay? You don't like, if you want to think if like, oh, it was open or something like that, because it's like, but she just walks in nonchalant. Sure. Yeah, stupid.
That happens in a lot of movies, actually.
It's so dumb.
Where people just walk into.
Or random hotel. You taken.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was watching West Wing for like the 90th time recently, and and like they have these election campaign like hotels or whatever. They just like go in.
Yeah. Hey.
Like even if you unlocked everything, anyway.
So yeah.
So
what you got?
I have the bad, which is there is overt sexual harassment in here, which is sometimes I can understand it's fun or whatever, but Peter is legitimately a sexual harasser.
Yes.
To her.
Yes.
To whatever her name is.
Christine
Taylor.
Yeah.
Like he's a legit sexual harasser.
Yeah.
Like it's like this is gross.
Yes.
And
he's less than White.
But White, see, but to me, White is the caricature of it, and that's what's acceptable in film. Like White is the like over the top, like gross, smarmy, like pumping up his junk or whatever. Like you accept that because you're like, I expect that from him. Legitimately, Peter is like first thing. Oh, it's not even my birthday. Like he is legitimately sexually harassing her, and is totally accepted.
Yeah,
it is a bad
because it's like a charming. Like,
it is a bad look.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would like the White part of it, like the White Goodman part of it is like the sort of stereotypical fun part of slapstick, sort of over the top comedy. Peter is cringeworthy. So that's why when I watched this with Matt the first time around, I was like, oh God.
Yeah.
I did not realize this was out of the box.
Sure.
Like sexual harassing. And he does it throughout most of the movie with her.
True.
So I had a problem with that. And I don't want to like go woke or go broke here, but like
no, it
is legitimately like, okay.
Yeah.
It's a bit over the top. There's a ton of gay bashing.
Yeah.
A ton of gay bashing for no reason. Fat shaming we already talked about. It's just not as funny as it once was. So
true.
That stuff, and in the best possible way I can say this, it doesn't hold up because we've grown, hopefully, as a society, in some circles of society, we have grown and said like, I found this shit hilarious 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Not so much now. And not because like I'm an overweight guy. That has nothing to do with that. I was never personally offended by it.
Yeah.
I was more offended because it was low blow humor.
Yes, very lazy.
That's where I was more offended that way.
Yeah.
But those, I was like, oh man. So second viewing, I was able to say like, look, I know those things are there. And I can overcome them because the rest of what we talked about is there and it's really funny.
Yeah.
But that's the one, like from a bad standpoint, I was like, yikes, this does not, it's uncomfortable. Like, I mean, like, it's uncomfortable.
And like the whole Justin Long's character with the cheerleader.
Yeah.
And he comes and like tries to save the day and like, oh, we're going to pair you up with this other cheerleader who's overweight.
Yeah.
You go,
which was kind of funny.
Sure.
It's
first. Like Porky's like,
it was funny at first, and then it got like weirder and weirder and weirder, and you're like, okay.
Yeah.
So there's just things that like
it doesn't
when you look back 20 years, like if we were growing up in the 90s and looking back at Animal House, right? Like you look back that way. So if somebody's looking at this movie now, 20 years on, not they weren't born or they were like young, maybe they look at it and say like, at the time culturally this was totally acceptable.
Yep.
But boy, there's some things that I was like, nope, it shouldn't be in there, it shouldn't hold up. So I'm glad it doesn't hold up, but I'm also glad that the movie is still funny.
It does, yes. There's elements that definitely land.
Yeah, never underestimate the fact that somebody gets hit in the nuts
100 times.
100 times.
It's still funny.
I'm going up there, I'm going to try it, I'm going to let the jury decide.
As we close out our spotlight segment, we come to our final takes called The Verdict.
If we are to have faith and justice, we need only to believe in ourselves.
This is where Tim and I give our final verdicts after rewatching the film and decide whether or not the movie held up over the course of 2 decades.
Now you get out of here before I call a bailiff and have you thrown in jail.
This is The Verdict.
I said to hell with it, to hell with it.
So my verdict, Dodgeball is a movie that needs to be watched only if you are in the right mood or stoned. While certain parts of Dodgeball seem outdated, for the most part, the movie has held up over the last 20 years, helped in large part to some truly classic lines and moments. I still find myself quoting along with the movie throughout. And we've talked about it before. We do the memes. And if that is any sort of barometer, then the movie is still funny. With some hilarious quotes that we still use today, including memes on the daily rotation, the movie stands out of a crowded field of early 2000 comedies. Definitely more so than Zoolander, but perhaps not as much as Old School.
Mm-hmm.
The performances leave some to be desired aside from Stiller, and there are definitely some things that I think they should redo. Overall, though, I found Dodgeball to be a good time once again, and I have 3.5 out of 5.
Nice. If you like similar sports-themed movies like Basketball, Happy Gilmore.
Baseball's way better.
Well, Bad News Bears, Caddyshack, that type of what you're getting into type of thing. You're going to enjoy the story of the underdog taking on a superior foe, and despite long odds, overcoming all obstacles. With a surprisingly underwhelming performance from Vince Vaughn, yet hilarious supporting characters, and a very great foul-mouthed performance from Rip Torn, you just ultimately know what you're getting into with Dodgeball. 3 out of 5 for me.
The exciting quiz program, 21.
Our final segment of the episode is Quiz Show.
I have stood on the shoulders of life, and I've never gotten down into the dirt to build.
Where in our research for our subject film, we find some interesting trivia nuggets that we hope will stump the other and possibly intrigue you.
This is not McCarthyism. You're not here to expose for the sake of exposure.
This is Quiz Show.
Well, evidently certain of the contestants were given the answers in advance.
Cheating on a quiz show. It's like plagiarizing a comic strip.
I have 2 trivia.
I have 3.
You have 3?
Mm-hmm.
Man, somebody just researched for 2 straight films. Go ahead.
So Alan Tudyk, who plays Steve the Pirate, was covered by us in A Knight's Tale years ago. Mm-hmm. And since emerging onto the scene in films during the early 2000s, has gone on to have countless film and voice actor roles. He's apparently like Disney's go-to guy for everything. Yet many hold him in their hearts, playing Wash on what short-lived, canceled, too early Joss Whedon sci-fi television series. It's one of those things like, I just had to mention it.
Yeah,
I figured you'd get it.
Yeah.
But Firefly is one of those way ahead of its time.
Oh, yeah, it's the sci-fi version of Freaks and Geeks, right? Like,
yes.
Like way ahead
Great
of their
comparison.
time.
Yeah.
Like where you're just like one season still holds
like
up.
13 episodes.
Yep.
And even the movie at the end to wrap it up.
That movie is really good.
Yes.
Yep.
So good. Love it.
Tim, how many times have Vince Vaughn and Ben Stiller shared a film credit?
Oh, gosh. Well, I know Starsky and Hutch.
Yep.
This one.
That's 2.
2. They were in Anchorman.
3.
Oh gosh. I'd have to like see some. I'm gonna say
I'd have to see their filmography.
Right? Yeah.
That would give me the answer.
I'm gonna say 5.
That is correct. But you can't even get to the other.
No.
We already talked about it. He's in Zoolander.
He's the coal miner. Yeah.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
And
brother.
then they were in The Watch a few years on after that.
Oh yeah,
that
an alien one. Yes.
Alien. Yeah. So that's it. You would
Random
almost
one.
kind of think that it would be more.
Yeah.
Right? And you'd be like, oh, I feel like there'd be more than that. But
it's like, they had the window of just like in that time, and then it feels like they were like,
Yeah, Zoolander, Starsky and Hutch, Dodgeball, and Anchorman were all in that like 2-year, 3-year span.
Yeah.
And then that was about it.
So Dodgeball was Rawson Marshall Thurber's directorial debut.
Yeah.
And he's gone on to direct a few other films, predominantly with Dwayne Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
Can you name the 3 films he's worked on with The Rock, a buddy comedy in 2016, action thriller in 2018, and spy comedy in 2021?
Wow.
Right?
What?
Wow. So,
wait, you start.
2016 buddy comedy.
Is it Central Intelligence?
It is.
Okay, all right.
The Rock and
Kevin Hart. Yeah. And then
action thriller in 2018.
2018 action thriller. Wow. With The Rock?
Mm-hmm.
I do like my Rock movies. Don't
Right?
get me wrong.
I know.
That's the thing.
Co-starring Nev Campbell.
Really? Why do I know that? Wait, what? What?
Right?
Huh?
Plot twist.
What's that one?
Skyscraper.
Oh, right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then 2021, is that Red Notice?
It is Red Notice.
Okay.
Nice.
Speaking of like movies, and we talked about this a little bit off air when we were talking about
Collateral.
No, well, but we were talking about Last Stop in Yuma County, which cost $1 million, right? And Red Notice cost like $200 million.
Yeah, right.
And it's like, it's fine.
It's just fine.
It's just fine. So you spend $200 million on a fine movie, or you can spend $1 million or $2 on a good movie.
Yep.
And that's where I'm like, oh, Red Notice. Well, a 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
Nice job.
All right. Al Kaplan. Do you have an Al Kaplan?
You're just making
trivia?
it. You're making it.
Al Kaplan, who plays the referee.
Bob Shefford.
He plays
whatever,
the referee in the dodgeball tournament.
Oh, sure. Yep.
He started his acting career in the early 90s after a 20-year stint as a professional Major League Baseball umpire. His career has been mostly small parts and commercials. Then Dodgeball came along, and in 2008 eventually allowed him to take on what he called his dream job, refereeing the revival of what hit sports-themed competition show? Come on now.
Sports theme competition show.
Yeah.
2008.
Yeah, it's a revival.
American Gladiators.
That is correct.
Yes. Oh man, that show was incredible.
Yeah. First of all, the '90s version of it was amazing, and then they did like a revival of it, or whatever. And he was the head referee there.
That's so fantastic.
Yeah.
Nice trivia. God, that original show was fantastic. Oh,
dude.
my God.
Yeah. Oh, it still holds up too. Like it's so great. Yeah.
Love it. So Rip Torn, Hollywood legend.
Yeah.
Would earn 1 Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actor in what 1983 drama co-starring Mary Steenburgen, Sturgeon, Alfred Woodward, and Peter Coyote. If you somehow get this.
83?
83.
Oh, man. What is it?
Cross Creek.
Okay. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And man, I wish I would have looked that up, because you would have just blown your mind.
I would be like
you
burn it down. No.
I came really damn close. What was it? Was it James Garner and his best, his nomination?
Oh yeah, like
I was really
Sally
close
Field too.
with
Yeah,
Sally Field.
It's like, ooh.
I was like, I couldn't remember the name of that movie.
No,
you would have lost your shit if I got that, and I was really close.
I was like, no,
damn it, Rip Torn.
Nice
That's
job.
what I get.
Yep.
All right, well, that brings us to the end of our happy hour episode on Dodgeball. Make sure to go back and listen to our recent episodes on your favorite streaming platforms. Watch out for upcoming episodes on the remaining films of 1994 in Pulp Fiction, Forrest Gump, and The Shawshank Redemption. We want to say thank you for taking the time to listen and for clicking that like or subscribe button on your devices. Find us on the internet via the metaverse of Facebook, Instagram, and Threads, and head to 20years4beers.com. This has been 20 Years 4 Beers. My name is Steve.
I'm Tim.
And thanks for listening.
Thanks. Fat bastard.
Why does he get 2 bisexuals at the end? That's bullshit. A whole lot of other doping.
Oh, but I'm sure this won't weigh up on you. And it's like, so the zeitgeist. Yes!
You
burn it down! No!
Cut! Cut! Cut!